Our next presentation, I'm looking forward to this one very much. This presentation came about when I had Simon Majumdar, our keynote speaker from yesterday, on my podcast. And he was talking about one of the dishes that he couldn't figure out was the sticky pudding from Britain. And he just couldn't figure out how to do it. And I was like, I know someone who can probably figure that out, that if it can be done, she'll be able to figure it out. And what came out of it was today's presentation. So this is by a multi-award winning home chef who has been entering and winning cooking contests since 1990. Her recipes are published in nationally known magazines, cookbooks, and online publications. She's competed in the World Food Championships for 6 years, is a food blogger, a TEDx speaker. She runs Good Grief Cook. She is the one that will cook entire cakes in the sous vide machine in bags, not mini cakes in a jar, but entire cakes to replicate the steaming process. Does some amazing things. So please help me welcome Lisa Keys from the Good Grief Cook.
Hi, my name is Lisa Keys. I am from Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. I wear many hats, but what I'm most famous for is being a Food Network Chop Champion and the writer of the food blog, Good Grief Cook. I am so thankful to be here today. Thank you to Jason Logsden and the ISVA to show you how to make a sticky toffee pudding in collaboration with the famous Simon Majumdar. I mean, pinch me that I am working with him today and creating this recipe for you all. Here is my test setup. I have a metal bowl on the bottom that supports a baking rack, then a 6-inch cake pan that has a cover on it, and then 2 open ramekins that also sit on that rack. Down here, I've got 1 half-pint canning jar that I will test the sticky toffee pudding in a closed container. The goal is to have the canning jar completely submerged in water while having the water come up on the ramekins and cake pan at least halfway to 3/4 up the sides. So why bake sous vide? I love to just be challenged by the different methods of cooking, and sous vide is definitely a challenge. I've been doing it for about 2 years, and typically what you lose in baking sous vide is a Maillard reaction, and that is a browning effect that creates flavor. So the advantage of baking sous vide is that, for the same reason you don't want the Maillard reaction, is that you do not get the dryness of that. The edges of your cake are as moist as the inside of your cake. And then I think we may be able to mimic that reaction by later broiling our cake, or maybe torching the top. So that will give that deeper, richer flavor that you get with that Maillard reaction. The other thing that happens with sous vide is that you do not get evaporation of your ingredients, which also promotes a deeper flavor. Again, the advantage of not having that is that you end up with a very moist kind of a cake, which personally I like that. And we are not the first to do a sticky toffee pudding sous vide. I will admit that. Most people do it in the jars like this, and we're gonna do one this way because I would like to taste it. We're also gonna do a steamed version. So typically, sticky toffee pudding is baked in these kind of ramekins. So we're just gonna put those in our immersion water bath, but raised above the water level so that they just steam. And then, as I always love to do, I'm going to do a 6-inch cake version. I'm going to probably bring the water level about 3/4 to almost the rim, and I'm not sure if I'm going to put this in a vacuum seal bag yet or not. I have to decide about that, because that's always tricky. You still get air in here. So let's get started with our ingredients. My new friend Simon, oh my God, did I just say that? Kindly provided me with one of his favorite recipes for sticky toffee pudding. You know, sharing recipes is all about the joy of gathering people together. And this is such a comfort food that you're really sharing your heart and your soul with those you share this recipe with. And Simon so kindly shared that with me, and it really has touched my heart. His recipe has such simple ingredients. What I love about it is that all these ingredients are readily available around the world. We're talking pitted dates, boiling water, baking soda, dark brown sugar, molasses, eggs, unsalted butter, all-purpose flour, vanilla, and some kosher salt. I mean, that's the cake. It's so easy. Then we make the sauce, and the sauce, again, so simple. Heavy cream, butter, dark brown sugar, some salt. Anyone should be able to gather these ingredients and create this recipe. Let's see if we can do it in an immersion circulator, sous vide style. I think we can. So Simon and I had a email conversation about what makes the best sticky toffee pudding. And for me, it is a moist cake with a rich dark flavor. Simon, on the other hand, wants a moist cake, but with a slight crust on the outside to kind of bite through before getting to that moist cake. So that is the challenge I am faced with in developing this cake. I'm going to try a couple things, maybe torching the outside of the cake to see if I could get it a little crusty. Also, I'm going to line the pan with some plain dry breadcrumbs, just to see if that makes it a little crusty on the outside. So we'll see. We'll give it a try, and hopefully we can get the best of all worlds. So let's get started on this recipe. First thing I want to show you is how I prepare the pans. So this is the 6-inch cake pan, and what I've done is cut a circle of parchment paper, sprayed the pan, put the parchment paper in the bottom of it, and then I sprayed the pan again, and in hopes of getting a crustier edge, I have coated the inside of the pan edge with some plain dry breadcrumbs. I think that's very European, actually, to use breadcrumbs in baking. So I'm going to try that. I also did a ramekin and coated the whole thing with breadcrumbs after spraying and putting a little piece of parchment in the bottom. I left one ramekin plain just because I want to see how it turns out. And then I sprayed this canning jar, half-pint canning jar, with some cooking spray and added nothing to it. Okay, so that's that. Next, I already started mixing this batter. And in here, I've got brown sugar and some molasses, some butter, and then I creamed that all together. I added some vanilla and salt. To that, we're going to add our eggs. And just going to whip that up pretty quick. do this in a stand mixer, be fine. Next, this is just some plain all-purpose flour going in. The other thing I did was, this recipe is 1.5 times the recipe Simon presented to me, only because I wanted to make sure I had enough batter to fill all these containers. So the recipe really calls for 2 eggs. The original recipe, I just tossed in 3 because I'm doing 1.5 times. So that's all mixed. You can see what that looks like. So soaking for the last 20 minutes has been the dates with some baking soda and boiling hot coffee. Simon's recipe calls for water, but I love the flavor of coffee in sticky toffee pudding. It may not be traditional, but I think it's delicious. So we're just gonna get that all in there. I probably should have used a bigger bowl, but I love this batter bowl because of the spout. Let's see if we can get this churned up. I think you can see what's going on in here. It's pretty liquidy. My sous vide machine is set for 198 degrees and 2 hours of cooking time. It may go faster than 2 hours, I'm just not sure, but I will check it at 90 minutes. Okay, it should be good to go. Taste. Tastes good. All right, so first ramekin. I think I'll do it about halfway. Second ramekin. Same thing, about halfway. The jar, I think I fill the jar about halfway too. Because you know this is going to rise. So you have to leave room. Just have to wipe that off. It's a little messy around here sometimes. Now for this pan, I'm just going to fold down the bag like you know you traditionally do when you're about to vacuum seal something, although we are not vacuum sealing this. I'm going to try and fill this pan about halfway. I might have way more batter than I thought I needed. So I have filled the pan about halfway. Hopefully that'll be okay. Always a work in progress when you're experimenting. I just always hope for the best. I also have this, it's part of a Pyrex set. It's a lid, which I will add to this. Just helps keep the heat in a little better, I think, to ensure even baking. And then this I'm just going to raise up, partially seal. Just helps keep the moisture off. Okay, let me check my sous vide temperature where the water is at. Finger tight with its 2 lid. You have to be able to let the air escape, so not too tight, finger tight. Okay, great. My temperature is just about there, so I'm going to drop everything in. I hope you can see me over here. Let's see if you can see me over here. Jars going in. Thank goodness it did not crack. That's happened to me before. I put these pans on top just to help heat things faster. Next thing going in is my cake on this end. My ramekins on that end. Okay, we've got the timer going. Okay, so 2 hours is up and it's time to look things over in here. First off, those cooked in the open ramekins, no good. They have not really cooked well at all. They are completely raw still. So I may put these in the regular oven and see if I can salvage them. The one in the jar, however, came out great. Look how far it rose. It's about a ½ inch from the top. And now I will maybe poke some holes in it now and pour some of the sauce mixture in and let that soak. And then we'll see if we can pop it out of the jar, or honestly, I think the beauty of baking in these jars or sous videing in these jars is to serve it right in its own container. You know, top it with some whipped cream, and when it's cool enough for people to handle, you know, let them eat it right out of the jar. It's great. I had enough batter left to make another 6-inch cake, and I baked this off in the oven. It took about 25 minutes to bake. And then I poured some of the sauce over the top and let it sit for about 20 minutes. I poked holes in there so that it would soak in. I'm sort of curious to see if it does keep a slight crusty edge, because I would think that the sauce would soften that edge quite a bit. The sous vide cake in the 6-inch pan is still going because I'm not convinced it's completely ready. I'm going to give it maybe another 15 minutes. And then I'll poke holes in that, pour some sauce over, and let it sit for 20 minutes or so. And then we'll come back and we'll taste everything. Okay. So here I am lifting out the cake out of the immersion circulator. And I don't reuse these bags, so I just cut this open. Once they've been heated, I feel like it's risky to reuse them again. I'm going to lift off the top. And the reason why I kind of knew that this was ready was because I could see it pulling away from the sides. Really helps to be able to see that. And the pan is really hot, so I don't know if I can just hold this up so you can see it pretty good. I am then going to just, you know, it springs back when I touch it, So that's a good sign that it's also done. Now I'm just going to poke some holes in it, pour some syrup over this top, and let it sit like I did the other ones for about 20 minutes. The sauce smells so good, I added some brandy to it. It's just heavy cream, brown sugar, butter, brandy. Just brought it all together on the stove and let it cook for about a minute. Okay, we'll be back to do our taste test. Well, that tastes pretty good already. So I just flipped this over. This is the sous vide cake. I'm lifting it out. And you know, it's because of that piece of parchment paper. It makes this so easy. Now, I mean, look at that. That's a beautiful sticky toffee pudding cake. At least the way it looks anyway. It came out great in the sous vide. I had put some sauce on the top of it, so now the sauce is pooling in the bottom. And we can decorate the top any way we want. The sides are firm, but I don't know that they are crusty in the way that Simon would like them to be. They do have sauce on them. So I'm going to try and just see if I can crust them up a little bit with this torch. I hope it's going to work. We'll give it a try. So you can see I'm just torching the sides. And you know, in sous vide, we often follow up searing something, you know, like your steak or your pork chop. So this is kind of another version of searing. Why not do it with dessert? I think it actually is working great. Kind of like what you would do with creme brulee, right? It's definitely bubbling and crusting. Cool. So I think this is going to work. I'll continue it and then we'll give it a taste. So I'm actually pretty excited to do this taste test with you. I think the sous vide cake came out really great. And before I add any more sauce or garnish to it, I really do just want to taste this edge to see if it has some bite to it, like Simon would like. Oh my God, it's crispy. See, it's all about the torch and the sear. I wish you could hear it crunching in my mouth. Definitely has a texture. So that's super cool. Now I just want to taste the baked version of it for comparison. Same edge. My baked version is so much softer on the edge. Wow, okay. I think the sous vide version is better than the baked version. If you're looking for that slight crusty edge to bite through to get to the soft part. The flavor of the cake is fantastic, by the way. And then here we are in the jar. So let's see what that's all about. Just trying to get part on the end. Well, that's completely soft too, as you would expect. But really delicious. I mean, no one would ever complain if you gave them this, especially if you took this from your childhood, which, okay, I'm sorry, everyone loves it, even though real whipped cream is fantastic. I mean, who doesn't love that? That doesn't bring back your childhood and, you know, putting it in your mouth and letting your mouth explode. Total comfort food. Oh man, that's so good. But if you want the crusty edge, sous vide the cake and torch it. That is just fantastic. Oh my God. It's like biting into that crunchy stuff on the creme brulee. Okay, Simon. I think we did it. Enjoy, everybody. Give it a try.
And for the record, Simon loved it. So Lisa accomplished her goal of Simon Majumdar saying, I would like something, and her doing all the recipe testing, putting it together, making a video, and sending it to him. He was very excited to get it. And I love seeing how Lisa approaches, her cooking and just like taking a concept and be like, I'm going to try these 4 or 5 different things, see if it comes out better. And when it does, she shares it with everyone. And when it doesn't, she lets people know that she couldn't get to work with sous vide. I think it's a great way to, continue to expand our cooking knowledge, which I love.